When people ask me what denomination we are, I say we're a $10 bill. To find out why, stay tuned for Reach Out and Live. Welcome to Reach Out and Live, a program of music, scripture, and sermon, brought to you each week by the many viewers and members of First-Plymouth Church, Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm Jim, minister here at First-Plymouth. Now this week, we have the Capital University Choir singing. We are in one of the most beautiful stories in our Bible, the prodigal son, and the congregation is ready for worship. Let's join them.
No matter how many children you have, you know something. Each one of them is different from the other. I mean, you can raise them in the same style, and you can raise them in the same household, and you can raise them in what you imagine to be the same way, but each one of them has a way of being in the world. Some are goody two-shoes who follow instructions and do everything that you say, obedient, calm. Others are free spirits. You careful with what you say no to because they might try it. And so this guy had two sons. One, the guy who was loyal and kind and obedient and who did the right thing. The other, the free-spirited one who was always in some kind of adventure and mischief. And it so happens that this younger one came to his father and said, "Dad, I just want to get out of here and enjoy life. I feel so stuck here. Would you give me my half of the inheritance so that I can just go and live my life?" Now, I don't know the parents in the room, but I know for me, if my youngest, who is a free-spirited one, by the way, came to me and asked me, I would have a lot of questions about this. And my initial answer would be a no. But this father, the story tells us, said yes. And so this son went on his way, and boy, did he live it up. He went and partied, and he bought amazing things. And you can imagine the nice cars he drove, and he will go into a bar and buy drinks for absolutely everybody. And he bought the best food, and he had the greatest friends, and he went to the best concerts, and he had the best friends all around him. All was amazing, except that at some point, the money runs out. It's not endless. And then the economy was not well, so he couldn't find a job that would be able to sustain him, even in the most basic kind of way. And he found himself in a below minimum wage job, and he found himself in this desperate situation. And in that moment, he said, wait a minute, the servants of my dad's house are living better than this. I'm going to go home. And the whole way home, you can imagine he was driving his little beater of a car, because the nice car he had to sell, you know. And the whole time he's driving home, he's imagining what he's going to tell his daddy, and he's going to ask for forgiveness, and he's going to say, oh, I recognize that I cannot be like your son anymore because I squandered everything, and I just want to be accepted as one of your servants. And he's just thinking over and over in his head, practicing what he's going to say. But he didn't know something about his dad. It turns out that this dad had been looking out the window every day since this boy left, hoping that one day this boy would come home. This boy had no idea the wonderful love of this dad. So one day, as he was looking out that window, like he'd done for so many days before, years before, he saw that boy coming home. And he ran out into the driveway. He didn't even let him come out of his car. He grabbed them and held them and loved them. And the son was trying to tell the daddy all that he had practiced the whole time there. But the daddy just kind of shushed him, really, and loved him and called on people to come and give him clothing, give him food, give him restore him. And then, since the whole town had been talking about this guy already, he hosted a party. You know, there's nothing better than a party to kind of shush the gossipers in a town. And he hosted the best party, the best food, the best drink, the best entertainment. And he celebrated because this son that was dead now is alive. This son that was lost is now being found. But I told you that there were two boys, didn't I? So Daddy looked around and realized that there was somebody missing. See, the one who'd always been obedient and who always done the right thing, the one who had always had his stuff together, you know, that one, you realize that we can have it all together and still be a bit lost, don't you? So this guy was angry beyond belief. And so he was outside. He didn't want to be part of this shenanigans. So Daddy comes out. And this son looks at him and says, "How dare you? I've done everything right. I've been obedient. I've been faithful. I've been loyal. I've actually managed your business with integrity and care. How dare you? You've never even given me the smallest little party to have with my friends, and then this guy who squandered everything, this guy who wasted your fortune, this guy who disrespected you, this guy happens to come home and you hold a party for him? How dare you? And the parent looks at this boy in the eyes. Son, don't you see that everything, this bounty, this goodness, these riches, these opportunities, everything around you is yours? Don't you see it? That this brother of yours was dead and now lives. He was lost, and now he's been found.
This Lent, we're in God's stories. That's our theme. And all through the parish, we're breaking into small groups. You can still join one that are reading some of the great American short stories. Now, these are not manifestly religious stories, but the idea is if a story is told well with depth, you can find God in it. And we'll be looking for God in these stories. And then the sermon series, God Stories, I'm looking at 5 particular stories: the paralytic, the prodigal, the prophet, the priest, and the prostitute. Today, we're in the prodigal. So bottom line today, I will talk about money, God, and love. Because every story is essentially framed by money, God, and love. Every story, really. Money provides a basic frame to any human story. Money is ubiquitous in our lives. It insinuates its way. I don't mean that in a bad way. It just moves into every nook and cranny of our lives. So all the great stories are framed by money. Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens is set by the lack of money. F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby by the excess of money, or John Updike's The Rabbit series by the pure middle, the pure average amount of money. Every great story is about money, God, and love. God and love are the 2 great yearnings of the human heart. To find meaning in life and to find each other, God and love. So here's one of the great stories. Let's look at money, God, and love. The frame is set by money here. So the story, it's a fairly privileged family, and the whole story is about money. He gives some of his money as an inheritance to the son. That son squanders the money. I mean, this guy, he obviously did really good retirement planning. I call this the Charles Schwab parable. Good retirement planning, chooses to give an inheritance. I mean, if you're able to give an inheritance, 35% of American families can leave some sort of inheritance. So you're up into that at least top 35%. He had an inheritance, but that guy went and squandered it, his son, and comes back. What's your relationship with money? It's an interesting question to ask, because we all have a style, or, money is one of the primary ways we express ourselves in the world. What's your relationship with money? Now, you might say, what do you mean, what's my relationship with money? I just wish money had more of a relationship with me. Because, we all want some more money, right? But some people, that we have different styles, different ways we express ourselves with money. If you got $20 in your pocket, some people are really aware of that $20, how it's going to be spent, really tracking it. Other people, that $20 just sort of disappears without them even noticing. A lot of people ask me what denomination we are, and I tell them we're a $10 bill. That's not a funny joke, I guess. Everything's about money at some level, but I don't mean necessarily in a bad way. Not necessarily. Do you know in our Bible, 16 out of 38 parables by Jesus are about money or possessions? In our Bible, in the New Testament, literally 1 out of 10 verses is about money or possessions. And there's something about this story that's amazing. Did you notice? The son completely squanders his inheritance, comes back to the father. Did you notice this? The father does not money shame him. Did you notice that? I mean, we money shame people all the time. It's kind of what we do. We're judgy about how other people are handling their money. But in this story, zero money shaming. I think it's wild. If my son wasted a bunch of money, man, I'd be wagging the finger. Oh, we money shame a lot. I see us do it all the time. When a young single mother on food stamps is in the grocery store and you notice she's carrying a really nice purse, and even in your mind, you're kind of going, why'd she spend her money that way? But my friends, you have no idea what a single mother on food stamps is dealing with. And when you're standing there in judgment, you have no idea. And if a good purse makes her feel better about herself, it might be one of the best ways to spend some money. But we're so judgy about each other, and I see us do it all the time. When we see a poor person out there with the latest iPhone, you have no idea what it's like being on the street all the time. And if you have a chance to be a little more connected, a phone is what connects us. We money shame each other all the time. It didn't happen at all in this story. And that, my friends, is a grace. Money, God, and love. Any story is going to be about money, God, and love. And oh, boy, is this story about God. It's the parable in the New Testament about God. The parable about God. Clearly, in the framework of this story, the father, it could have been a mother just as well, but here it's a father, is the God figure. There really are only two images of the divine in the main testament, essentially. This is what I would say, really just two. The first is, of course, Jesus himself. Colossians says that he is the image of the invisible God. So you have that image presented. The other is Luke 15. Because I don't know if you noticed, but God is not manifestly present much in the New Testament. So we just have these two images. Early in the Bible, God's like walking around in the garden talking to people, right? I mean, God is like right there. And then even in the prophets, God is talking to the prophets. And God is like manifestly present in Scripture. But you get to the New Testament, it all becomes more subtle. The divine voice rings forth twice, at the baptism and on the Mount of Transfiguration. But otherwise, God's not so present. Jesus doesn't even talk to God in the New Testament. He prays to God, but I mean, you don't have those conversations like he did in the Old Testament. Instead, we're given two images, Jesus and this story. This is the doctrine of God in the New Testament. This one, Luke 15. And what is the doctrine of God here? That our God is infinitely merciful. This is the key presentation of God. That our God isn't just forgiving, God is sloppy forgiving. I mean extravagantly forgiving. The word prodigal in English means extravagant or wasteful. But we say this story is about the prodigal son. It's really the prodigal God, whose forgiveness is just reckless and spilling out. This is the primary doctrine of God in the New Testament. But then religion, we won't believe this. And so we'll set up boundaries on God's forgiveness.
We'll sort of define, where God will forgive. Man, God may just send you to hell or what, who knows. But we can't follow this story because infinite forgiveness, we just can't believe it. But he just runs out. God is just sloppy forgiving. Religion, it's always trying to define God. But we can't believe a story like this. Religion. So sometimes people come up to me and really intensely, they'll ask me, do you believe Christianity is the only true religion? And they'll have like some serious intensity about this. Do you believe Christianity is the only true religion? And they wait for my answer. And I say, well, the point is God is the only true God. Why are they making such a big deal about Christianity? We don't worship Christianity. My friends, listen, we don't worship Christianity. We worship God. So what's their intensity about? We worship the one and only true God, yes. We don't worship religion. Religion at its best points you towards God. So we just, in religion, we define God to something less than this story. It's at our spiritual peril when we define God in a way that's less than our gospel. But we do it all the time. This God of infinite forgiveness. If you are holding something against somebody, if you are holding something against yourself, if you think you better work up your apology, just like the prodigal son did, that you better work up your apology and bring it before God, if you think this, God has already forgiven you long ago. Money, God, and love. Every story. Love is the essential striving of our lives, this yearning. It's in this story too. There's now a philosopher of love. He's risen in prominence in the last few years, writing two major works about love. His name is Simon May. He's professor of philosophy at King's College in London. And he notices that in Western civilization and scholarly thought, they use the word love all the time, but they never really describe what love is. Like, what really is the benefit someone receives when they're loved or love? He goes, it's never really defined. So what is the benefit for a human being when you love or are loved? What's the benefit, he says? Now, he's a philosopher, so this is what he says. You receive ontological rootedness. I'll explain what he means. Ontological rootedness. He says, the moment you love or are loved, you suddenly know who you really are. You know your identity. You are grounded ontologically. You are rooted in who you are. Ontological rootedness. You've come home to yourself at that moment. And then in love, he said, you're ontologically rooted, then you can imagine a shared future together. This is what is essential for us, to know who we are and know we have a shared future. That is what love brings. This son had lost himself. And somehow he found his way home. And he now knows who he is. And they have a shared future. And so, my friends, if in any way you've lost a sense of who you are, if in any way you're not really at home, we have a God who is always ready, infinitely ready to welcome you home. May it be so for you.
I am so glad that we were able to worship together, and I hope it will empower you to be more graceful to others. Do you know you can worship with us live every Sunday on Facebook, YouTube, or our website at 9, 10:30, and 11:59, and all of that is made possible by gifts from you.
If you believe that an open-minded, loving congregation can help change the world, then consider making a donation. It will help us increase the love of God and neighbor, both in Nebraska and the world. If you would like to learn more about our church, go to firstplymouth.org. You can watch videos of the sermons, learn about our many programs and missions, then follow us to Facebook and become a friend.
We now worship online at 9 a.m. and 10:30 on YouTube, Facebook, Vimeo, and our website. We also add live events, so join us online. I was speaking about how almost every story is about money, love, and God. So even if you do not have enough, I want you to know that you are enough and that you are loved, and so you can reach out and live.
Tune in again next week for another edition of Reach Out and Live.